What is up, Sooner Nation? I am Casey Mallon, and you are now, come on, in a Sooner state of mind. Make sure you subscribe on Apple Podcast and Spotify. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. BetOnline has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games. Think you know your stuff? Get in on our $200,000 mega contest and pick 5 games against the spread every week for your chance at weekly prizes and a share of $200K. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker or unwind with one of our over 150 slots games. Head to the website today to get in on the action. Bet online, the game starts here. On today's show, more brutality on the injury front. A Sooner takes home the SEC Defensive Lineman of the Week award. And if you listened to our last show, you probably know who it is. We get our start time for our conference play. We preview the Tulane game and check in with some Sooners doing work in the NFL. Sooner Nation, Houston, too close to New Orleans. But are we back off the ledge? Did a family member or a loved one talk you down, get you back in the house? Come on, I'll give you a sandwich. It's okay. It's going to work out. LaCroix, if you're watching, we are listening. You knew there was no way this season was going to be squirm-free. No way at all. Just a little premature squirmulation. Don't feel bad. It happens to the best of them. But we are not here to dwell on the past. We are here to move forward. But before we do that, we are going to reward the player who made our favorite play last week and helped save our season, at least for another week. That's right. University of Oklahoma junior defensive lineman Gracen Halton was named the Southeastern Conference Defensive Lineman of the Week following his performance in OU's 16-12 win over Houston on Saturday. He shared the award with Alabama defensive lineman Tim Keenan. Halton had a pair of tackles for loss. That's 2 TFLs, a sack, and a safety. And that safety couldn't have come at a better time. Sack loss of 11 yards, and that safety 5-yard stuffing of the run with just under 2 minutes left in the game. Sooners only up by 2 at the moment. Put them up by 4. That way we wouldn't lose by a field goal. Pumped everybody up. Gave everybody a little sigh of relief. And he was a big part of why Houston only had 58 yards rushing. Do the math, people. That's 1.7 yards per carry on the night. Gracen is coming on this season, baby. Already 3.5 TFLs and 2.5 sacks. You've seen this guy's motor in the first couple games of the season. I think he's trending upward. I think we're going to see more of that during the season. But congratulations, my friend. Well earned, especially with all the big names on the defense up front. Halton's just been dominating so far, and it's a lot of fun to see that growth. See, I just made you happy. Now I'm going to make you feel like puking. Sorry. When we look back at that Houston game, Houston, 318 total yards. The Sooners, 249. Pass yards, Houston, 260. The Sooners, 174. Rushing yards, 58. Rushing yards for the Sooners, 75. Time of possession, 35 minutes for those Cougs. That leaves 25 for us. It's not going to work, people. What are we going to do? We're going to cry about it, or we're going to get better? Well, you might feel like crying after this. Oklahoma redshirt senior offensive lineman Gracen Halton will miss the remainder of the season after undergoing a bicep surgery. That's what BV said on his coach's show on Monday. Brenton Hickman, he's banged up. We got to get healthy up front, man. It's really hard to get a good evaluation of what the heck's going on until we do that. So hopefully there's bodies on the way. It's got to get healthy. I mean, we're in dire straits here, people, but we shall proceed. Speaking of offensive linemen, you might remember the Josh Bates meltdown at one of the most critical moments of the game last week. I know we would all like to forget it, maybe not as much as Bates would like to, but dude acknowledged his mistake this week, and I loved his accountability. You know, said he's going to work his ass off to try to get back the trust of his teammates and his coaches, and just look on his face when he was saying as much felt like that was sincere. I mean, I get it. We all mess up. But like I said, he addressed it with his coaches and teammates, and I am willing to bet that it never happens again. I do like that he was ready to throw down for JFA, but at that moment, it wasn't needed. Got to keep a cooler head, and I think it's a good learning experience for a young guy, so I think he'll be fine moving forward in regards to that. So maybe he takes it out between the whistles fairly against some of them golden waivers, green waivers. Green wave, not plural. It's just a wave this weekend. We have an official start time for the official start of the SEC conference play, where it just means more. Sooners host the Tennessee Volunteers. That's going down at 6:30 p.m. Central Time, Saturday, September 21st. It's right around the corner, people. OU's SEC opener will mark the fourth all-time meeting between the two teams, the last being in 2015. OU does lead the series 3-1, with OU's last loss against those Vols coming in 1939, so it's been a minute. OU was picked to finish 8th in the SEC preseason poll, and the Vols were picked to finish 7th. So next week, we will get into the legend that was born the night the last time these two teams played. No spoilers here, but his name might rhyme with Laker Rayfield. Just saying. But we cannot look ahead to next week, especially after last week. I think that's probably backwards. We cannot look ahead to next week, especially after last week. All right. I don't care. One of the ways. You look at it and you tell me what you thought. This Saturday, the 2-0 and 15th ranked team in the country, our Oklahoma Sooners, host the 1-1 Tulane Green Wave. This game, the Sooners are 14.5-point favorites at home. By the way, that's a 1.5 less than they scored all of last week. So I guess they have work to do on offense. The Green Wave were here just a few years ago in 2021. Willie Fritz and company, as he did last week in 2021, gave the Sooners all they wanted and more. Sooners end up winning that game 40-35, but the game was very close and had Sooner Nation squirming until the last minute. Started out with the Spencer Rattler INT. Michael Pratt, that dude was a gamer. He turned it into a Tulane touchdown. No problem. Sooners up 37-14 at the half. But as we've seen way too often, the offense stalled out, managing only a field goal in the second half. Tulane scored 13 unanswered in the fourth quarter to make it a 5-point game. What'd they do next? Recovered an onside kick. Are you kidding me? Just over 2 minutes left in the game. Very similar to last week. Close margin, a lot less points, but very close margin. But it was on third down that Nick Bonito and Perrion Winfrey did the Malachi Crunch on Michael Pratt. And then on fourth down, still more squirm to come for the people. On 4th and 13, Pratt scrambled for 12. What the hell? Sooners had just enough to hold on. So we saw Willie Fritz. He's down with Houston now. This year's Green Wave is led by head coach John Sumrall. He was at Troy University. Then 23-4 there, 2 Sun Belt Conference championships and a pair of double-digit winning streaks. He was named Sun Belt Conference Coach of the Year and was twice named a finalist for the Eddie Robinson Coach of the Year honor. He's returning to Tulane after serving as the Green Wave's co-defensive coordinator for 3 years, 2012 through 2014. And a crucial part of that run to the New Orleans Bowl. Oh, yeah, prestigious. Program's first postseason appearance since 2002. I shouldn't scoff at that, even though I'm a scoffer. And their third since 1988. He was also a finalist for Football Scoop Defensive Line Coach of the Year. But here's his 6 degrees of Oklahoma. Sumrall was co-defensive coordinator on Mark Stoops' staff at Kentucky, where Sumrall went to school prior to the 2021 season. Got that Kentucky defense ranked 25th. So, dude's pretty solid when it comes to the defensive side of the ball. That's bad news for a Sooner team that completely struggled in almost every offensive area last week. Speaking of last week, Tulane almost took down the Kansas State Wildcats. Game tied at 20 going into the fourth quarter. Tulane took a 27-20 lead, but a late fumble returned for a 60-yard touchdown, followed up with a late interception, and the upset bid was no more. Kansas State won 34-27, but Darian Mensah sounds like a real brainiac to me. Had almost 350 pass yards and 2 touchdowns, but those 2 costly turnovers. But Mario Williams, sound familiar? The former Sooner Trojan, Sojan, Truner. He had 6 grabs for 128. Alex Bauman, he had 2 catches, both for tutties. And Mekhi Hughes, 21 carries, 128 yards at over 6 yards a carry and a touchdown. Not liking that. Kansas State's Avery Johnson, he did fairly well against that Green Wave defense, 15-23, 181, 2 tutties. But Kansas State ran the ball very well as a team, 31 carries, 215 yards. It's almost 7 yards a carry and a touchdown. Guess what we need to do on Saturday? Sooners got to find a way to get that run going. Have to. And if they're able to get the run going, that should open things up in the passing game in theory. Oops, spin it around. See if LaCroix comes in here to sponsor. I drink like this every time. You just got to show the label. More good news for this staggering OU offense. Tulane did not have a sack in the Kansas State game. That's good. Bad news for Tulane. K-State got home 5 times. That ought to be pretty good news for the Sooners defense. Plenty of talent on this Tulane team. 6 players named to the 2025 Senior Bowl watch list. Dante Fleming, receiver. Mario Williams, receiver. Defensive lineman Aiden Huntington. Defensive lineman Patrick Jenkins. DB Jonathan Edwards, as well as other DB Caleb Ransaw. It's a lot of veteran leadership right there. Now, leading up to this game for the Sooners, I am positive that there will be an increased attention to detail. You can book it. Now, I'm not sure if this team believed they could just show up and roll through these 3 games leading up to conference play. I kind of did. In no way did I think that the offense was going to struggle like it has. In no way did I think we would have so many freaking injuries. But either way, it became abundantly clear last week versus Houston that this team can't underestimate any team and has very little room for error. And if they don't pick up that level of play, maybe a couple levels, especially on the offensive side of the ball, it's going to be a very long season because it's about to get real. And Jackson Arnold knows he has to play better, but he needs to get some help too. He's been sacked 6 times in 2 games. He's leading the SEC in dropped passes, 5 of those bad boys. He's 3rd for defensive pressures, 21 defensive pressures already. And 6th with those pressures turning into sacks at almost 24%. Those aren't SEC defenses getting home like that. Got to figure it out up front. And that is part of the reason through 2 games, OU has just converted 5 of 26 on 3rd downs. It's actually 131st out of 133 FBS teams. Not good. Of course, we expected growing pains this year, even before all the injuries. That was Jackson Arnold's 3rd start of his collegiate career. It's not easy. Take away some of his best weapons at receiver. Take away a bunch of the linemen. No cohesion, guys moving all over, not in their traditional position. Yeah, it's going to make that even tougher. Does he have to play better? Absolutely. But this team still believes in him. He still believes in himself. That's a highly talented, high-character player out there. Takes some time. It's on-the-job training, and it's not easy. Quarterback is very difficult. Venables said, "You're a leader. Guys are counting on you. You can't be over there just focused on just yourself. When it comes to the leadership piece, you got to be a great example, and you got to have your head down and go to work every day too." So that balance is really important. And again, he's a mature, tough guy, and so he's handled all of it really well. Again, he's had great self-awareness and has taken ownership where he's needed to, and that's allowed him to take the next step as far as his progression and development. Those are all the right things. I like what I'm hearing out of that. As far as the fan base goes, this Sooner fan base, not known for its patience or its sanity for a large portion of it. Give this dude time. Give this dude some receivers. Get healthy up front. And then let's see what the picture looks like. I'm not going to panic, but it has to get better, and it will get better. It's a process. Trust the process. Now, having health at the receiver position and at the O-line position will go a long way for that process. But in respects to that, so far the news is not all that good. Starting center Branson Hickman is still working back from an ankle sprain, and starting right tackle Jake Taylor was unable to finish the first half against Houston after missing the opening game. Venables said there's a reason the ones are the ones and the twos are the twos and the threes are the threes. Then again, there's a thing called chemistry, cohesion, and timing, working together when you don't have your best ability is your availability. You hear that a lot. It's a cliche, but it's freaking true, man. It is so true. When you don't have the guys available, you got to get the next guys ready. And that's not always the easiest thing to do, especially when we lose underclassmen to the NFL every year. It happens, but that's the price for being some of the best in the biz. Bill Beatenbow is the best. So those guys go out a little early. If everybody stayed their full 4, this line would look a lot different. But it's going to get healthy at some point. Where will this team be when that finally happens? Now, the good thing about that is that gets a lot of reps for a lot of the young dudes, and that will eventually pay dividends. Maybe not right now, maybe not when we want them, maybe not when we need them, but eventually. So, got to see if the LaCroix can is half full. All kinds of banged up at O-line, all kinds of banged up at wide receiver. And unfortunately, it looks like it's going to be at least one more week without Nick Anderson, and that is a total bummer. Although, sprinkle on a little hope right there. Venables said he practiced. Speaking of Tuesday, he looked good. Hopefully, he'll continue to progress. He's practiced in team setting stuff, so we're hopeful. Venables also mentioned Anderson on his coach's show, and he said he will be back at least before the Sooners SEC opener against Tennessee next week. Really soon, Venables said then, if not this week, then next. Need a little of that mojo, baby. Hopefully it can be this week to get that timing going a little bit, to get that connection back with JFA. Last year, Nick, 31 passes, 798 yards, 10 touchdowns, while only starting 6 games as a redshirt freshman. It's one of the best seasons a freshman OU receiver ever had. His 10 TDs, the most being caught by a Sooner freshman, and set a Big 12 freshman record. Big, fast, good hands. You might remember a little catch from the Cotton Bowl. Got to get him back, though. Deion Burks has been pretty dang good. Not going to front. He's been really good. And Brennan Thompson has flashed. Petaway and Anthony, both in and out of the lineup with those injuries. But without Anderson, Farouk, Gibson, none of those young bloods have stepped up. Yet, there's still opportunity. Plenty of opportunity there for the taking. Someone's just got to decide that they want to do it and make it so. The problem is Burks has 15 catches. That's not a problem. The problem is the next closest guy is Thompson, and he's only got 6. Got to get these guys involved. Got to get more productivity by any means possible. Will the run game go to helping that? Yeah, you bet your ass it will. There's a lot to be fixed, people. Oh, speaking of that run game, gotta find a way. Gotta find a way to get it going. Way too much talent not to. I would love to see more Barnes, and I want more Tatum too. A little twist here. Gavin Sawchuk has been named a captain for this game. So maybe that elevation will help him find his groove. It's just looked a little off. Not a lot of opportunity there so far because they can't get anything going and they kind of bail on the whole run a little too quickly. But when it's not working and as bad as it's looked, I get why you don't put that back on the play sheet. But the team has 65 rushes through 2 games, and 22 of those are for Jackson Arnold. So got to get that run game going. Help if we had some healthy bodies up front, but no one gives a crap about all that. No one on the outside cares. It's only Sooners that care. So who's going to step up and make the plays? I love all those running backs. I don't care who it is. Somebody. You know, and if you could pinpoint one thing that's been the downfall of this team, that would be one thing. But it's not just been one thing. It's been several things, and there's plenty of blame to go around. But if this team can find a way to run the damn football, oh, my gosh, it's going to make everything else a little bit easier. It's going to open everything else up just a bit. That being said, as of now, this team is still undefeated. We're 2-0. And it's not like this offense has to put up 45 points a game to win. They just need to sustain some drives. Have an 8-minute drive. Wear those defenses down and score some points. That will help. 20, 24 points should be enough to win most weeks. That would also give our defense more opportunity to stay off the field, keep them fresh, and have them ready to go if the game is on the line. And let's not forget, just because they've been mostly dominant, that this unit will not continue to improve, because they will. Allow these young guys getting the reps, getting the experience, will be different players in November than they are right now. And up front, there is a whole lot of trouble going on. We talked about Halton, Jaden Jackson, Downs, Ford. It's beasting up there. Our Mason Thomas, linebacking core, deep AF. So good. Back end, solid. Youngblood Boganowski looking to make a name for himself. You keep hearing this guy's name come up in practice. It's going to translate to games at some point. And when it does, it's going to be lights out, baby. Sooners defense are young and talented, and they can get at you in waves. Get at the wave in waves. This team already on the season, 8 sacks through 2 games, 16 TFLs through 2 games, 8 turnovers through 2 games. Just held those Cougs to 58 yards rushing. Let's not waste this incredible defense, okay? Is that on the front porch? They don't wave. They don't green wave. The Sooners get just a little more run game going, a little tighter, a little cleaner in the pass game. Another solid defensive performance. A couple more turnovers. Ethan Downs, dude, he's going to go off in this game. And if and when all that happens, the Sooners will improve to 3-0 before they open up conference play against Josh Heupel and those Tennessee Volunteers. And that is what I am talking about. Maybe that performance last week is going to be solid. You learn more in a loss than you do in a win, but when a loss or when a win feels like a loss, there's some stuff to be learned in there. And this is a young team, but it's got great leaders. It's got great talent. We just need to get healthy. All right, week 3 of the college football season, a handful of good games. We have 2 games featuring ranked teams doing battle. We're going to start it off in our former conference, the Big 12, where it doesn't mean as much as it does in the SEC, because that's where it just means more. Either way, it's a Wildcat battle. Cats, man. You like the Cats? And we don't have to wait for Saturday for this one. It's Friday night. Number 20, Arizona. At number 14, KSU. Wildcats, 7-point favorites. I got you, suckers. KSU, 7-point favorites at home. And remember T. McMillan. We got a little taste of him in the Alamo Bowl. Watch this dude. He is a lot of fun to watch. He plays receiver for the Wildcats. That's Arizona. And this cat is a wild cat. Wild, comma, cat. 12 catches, 315 yards, and 4 touchdowns on the season already. They got a special little connect there. In Kansas State, they showed some grime last week. They were down. They could have folded. They did not. They powered through, came up with a couple big stops on defense, came up with some points on defense, and it ended up giving this Green Wave an L. Who saw this one coming? Number 24, BC at number 6, Mizzou. Mizzou, 16.5-point favorites I see. But these BC Eagles, baby, they have put up 84 points through 2 games. Thomas, Castellanos, whatever. 2 L's. I can't trill my L's. Castellanos, I'm going to say, has been dynamic and very fun to watch. Reminds me a little bit of Kyler. BC, 16.5-point dogs. But I've liked what I've seen out of them so far. And Mizzou's been rocking a lot of bravado. They talk a lot of stuff down there. They get into a lot of different communities on the webs, talking a lot of smack. So let's see if that's earned. Go BC, right? Number 16, LSU at South Carolina. LSU, 8.5-point favorites. They bounced back after losing to USC by beating a tough Nicholls State, man. Nicholls, man. The game was tight for a while. They pulled away late. Hey, I would like to pull away late in a tight game. We were unable to do so, so maybe we can learn something from this LSU team. But South Carolina is 2-0, and Beamer's got his cocks cocked, locked, and ready to rock. Oh, I'm so juvenile. Number 9, Oregon at Oregon State. DG and the Ducks, 14-point favorites on the road. Different conferences, but somehow the in-state rivalry can keep going. I guess that's what happens when one team isn't bitter about the conference breakup. They find a way to get it done, not crying about it. DG and the Ducks with an impressive win over Boise State last week. My man DG putting up some pretty good numbers early on this season. 59-70, 623, and 4 touchdowns. Those Ducks have made both their games pretty interesting, so no telling what's going to happen in this one. But if it is close, look for some dime time when the game is on the line. And if we were playing basketball, this would be a banger. UConn at Duke. Whoa. But that's a football game, and a little recap of NFL action last week has some pretty good Sooner performances. Ramondre Stevenson ran all over those Bengals. Who dey run over by Stevenson. They was. And Joe Mixon absolutely dominated in that game. Since you wish they had Mixon back, Joe's gonna be a great fit on that Houston Texans team. I hope last week was a show of what's to come. I think it will be. That offense has a bunch of weapons, and it's perfect for Mixon. But nobody was shaken or bacon like one of our most beloved former Sooners, Baker Mayfield. And I could not be more stoked for Bake. 24-30, 80%. Are you kidding me? 289, 4 touchdowns, and no interceptions in a Bucs win that they completely rolled over those Commandos. Baker in total control. And Cleveland said this guy was not good enough to play for them. I wonder what their QB did last week. He got the crap kicked out of him. Didn't complete many passes. You know what, though? I'm glad they didn't know what they had in Baker. I'm glad he's gone. It was painful to watch him in that ugly-ass orange and brown. Good on you, Bake. He's rocking that dad strength and that dad mentality now. He's out there doing work. Going to have his hands full this week. Big matchup in Detroit Rock City with those Detroit Lions, who looked very impressive last week too. And if you're into the NFL, make sure you check out the Trend Zone. It's available for the football dudes. It's also on Apple Podcast. just like Sooner State of Mind. Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Go ahead and subscribe. It's free. All you got to do, hit the little button, and then sweet, delicious Sooner goodness delivered right to your little ear tummies. Boom. Oh, yeah. Get it. Also, head on over to Believe.com. That's BLEAV.com. It's hard to do stuff backwards, but you can see me pat my stomach, but it's off camera. Anyways, go to shows, type in Sooner State of Mind, and you are locked. So much great content there, people. If you're not at Believe.com, I don't know what the hell you're doing with your life. Whatever you're into, we can find it because it's every team, every topic, everywhere. Believe.com. And if you're watching Sooner State of Mind, hello, it's nice to see you. Go ahead and hit the comment section, like us. But if you just want to watch Sooner State of Mind and you have not done so, head on over to YouTube, search the Football Dudes. We are there. You got any hot takes on this game, where the Sooners are headed? Hit me up. Let me know. Let's talk about it. Sooner State of Mind is brought to you by Bet Online. My name is Casey Mallon. I am in a Sooner State of Mind. Let's do the work. Let's get to 3-0, people. Have a great weekend.